Okay, so imagine this. Your house running on sunshine, even when, it's cloudy.
It sounds like a dream, right?
It does, but that's what we're looking at today. Hydrogen-powered homes could be a total game changer, right?
Absolutely. It's a really fascinating idea. I mean, think about it. Taking all that extra solar energy, the stuff that we usually just lose, and turning it into fuel that you can actually store and use, like, whenever.
We're diving deep today, folks. Our source. This article, The Future of Hydrogen Production and Storage with PV Energy Smart Homes, Smartphone Control, hot off the press, published just last week. We'll cover the good, the bad, and even look at some real-world examples. But,
Then go up.
yeah, buckle up, because we're going to
Uh-huh.
find out. Are hydrogen-powered homes the future or just hype?
And here's a little teaser. Hydrogen, compared to that LPG most of us use. It's like, whoa, energy packed. Could change way more than just our houses, that's for sure.
Okay, color me intrigued. But back up a sec. How do we even get hydrogen from solar power?
It all starts with this thing called electrolysis, basically reverse engineering water.
Mm-hmm.
So we take electricity from those solar panels you've got and use it to split water molecules. Split them right into hydrogen and oxygen.
So hang on. Instead of losing those extra sunny day electrons, we're, catching them in a new form?
Exactly, like a sunshine bank, right?
Uh-huh.
Deposit that extra energy when the sun's out, then withdraw it later as clean fuel. And it solves a big problem with solar, which is, well, needing the sun to shine.
Makes sense. Okay, so now that we've got the basics down, let's talk storage. You mentioned hydrogen being, better than batteries. How so?
Batteries, great for the short term, but hydrogen, options, options, options. Compressed gas, liquid hydrogen, even storing it in special chemical compounds. And the amount of energy you can store with hydrogen, it, it just blows batteries out of the water.
I'm seeing the potential here, but let's get real for a sec. What about the cost? This all sounds pretty high-tech, and high-tech usually means high price tag, right?
Yeah, that's the catch. Solar panels, getting cheaper all the time. But electrolysis systems, still a hefty investment.
So are there different kinds of electrolysis tech, maybe some that are easier on the wallet?
You bet. There's PE, electrolysis, stands for polymer electrolyte membrane, known for being efficient, super responsive to changes in energy supply. But think of it as the high-performance, higher-cost option.
So if you're on a budget.
Standard alkaline electrolysis systems, they might be the way to go. Not as efficient as PEM, but usually easier on the wallet. It's a trade-off, and researchers working hard to bring those costs down across the board.
It's like any new tech, right? Always some kinks to work out. But say we solve the cost issue. What other hurdles are we looking at?
Well, it's not just making the hydrogen, it's also how we're going to store it, move it around safely. We're dealing with a flammable gas here, so the infrastructure needs to be top-notch.
Right, infrastructure. Sounds like a massive undertaking, right? Specialized tanks, pipelines, all that. What are those tanks even made of?
Usually you'll see things like stainless steel, or maybe aluminum alloys, even carbon fiber sometimes. Each one's got pros and cons, in terms of safety, cost, how well they perform, all that.
But, you mentioned this hydrogen embrittlement thing earlier. It sounds like hydrogen can actually weaken those tanks over time. Is that right?
Basically, yeah. Imagine it slowly weakening the metal, kind of like rust, but from the inside out. So a real concern. So that's why researchers are always developing new coatings, and better materials to combat it.
So we're not just talking about a new technology. We're talking about a whole new approach to safety, material science, the whole shebang. Which, this might sound a bit, Hollywood, but when most people hear hydrogen, the first thing they think of is
Explosions.
explosions. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. It's understandable. There have been, incidents in the past that made people nervous, and rightfully so.
So how do we change that perception? How do we make sure safety is the top priority, not just, something people say?
Transparency, that's key.
Yeah.
Got to be upfront about the risks and the safety protocols every step of the way. Production, storage, how we move it, how we use it. Not just saying it's safe, but showing people why it is.
So it's about building a hydrogen-ready world, and part of that is being honest about the challenges, but also showing that we're serious about safety. Okay, but shifting gears a bit here, our article mentioned how energy-dense hydrogen is compared to LPG. Way denser. Almost sounded too good to be true.
Well, hydrogen does pack a punch. Higher heating value, or HHV, about 141.7 mJ/kLA, compared to LPG's 46.1. Basically, you get way more energy from the same amount of fuel.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
Yeah.
So what does that mean in the real world? Where would this kind of energy density be most useful?
Think about things where energy efficiency is crucial, like transportation or those big industrial processes. Suddenly using hydrogen starts to make a lot of sense. This isn't just about powering homes, it's about a whole energy revolution.
That's a pretty wild thought. But, it's easy to get lost in the what ifs. Are there any, actual examples of this tech being used in homes right now?
Absolutely. Companies like Home Power Solutions, they're doing some really cool stuff. Systems like Picea, it basically integrates hydrogen storage right into your house, like having your own little power plant powered by the sun.
So it's not just some sci-fi concept, it's happening now. That's pretty awesome. What else is driving this push towards a hydrogen-powered future?
Well, research incentives are a big factor. Governments, private organizations, they're all starting to see the potential of hydrogen, and they're putting their money where their mouth is.
Sounds like a global effort, not just a few isolated projects. But, I couldn't help but notice the comment section on this article. People had some strong opinions about this hydrogen revolution, to say the least.
Well, that's to be expected, right? Anytime you've got a new tech with this kind of potential impact, people are going to be curious, skeptical, maybe even a little scared.
So let's unpack some of those comments. Mario, he seemed pretty optimistic, talked about hydrogen leading us to a, greener future. What do you think about that?
I get where he's coming from. The idea of a clean, abundant energy source, it's exciting, especially with climate change being such a pressing issue.
But then you've got Ricardo, who was more cautious, right? Mentioned the challenges of scaling up production, infrastructure, and even brought up some environmental concerns. How do you respond to that?
Ricardo makes some valid points too, for sure. We can't ignore the potential downsides, those complexities that come with changing how we do energy on such a large scale. We've got to be realistic about those challenges.
And then there's Phoenix, who brought up some really interesting critiques about the cost and safety and even the potential for a new kind of energy inequality. What are your thoughts on that?
Those are really important concerns, absolutely crucial to make sure that clean energy is available to everyone and that safety isn't compromised in the process.
And finally, Mariah. She seemed to find the article informative, but couldn't resist throwing in a little humor, comparing the excitement over hydrogen production to watching paint dry.
Yeah, Mariah's comment gave me a chuckle too. It's good to remember to keep things light sometimes, right? Even when we're dealing with complex, serious topics.
Yeah.
Got to keep that sense of humor.
It's amazing to see such a range of opinions, though. It really shows you this is a topic people are passionate about, makes them think critically, which is a good thing, right?
Absolutely. Open discussion, different perspectives, that's what we need, especially when we're talking about shifting to a whole new energy system.
Okay, well, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive. We've gone from the science of, splitting water to the possibility of a global energy shift, and even touched on some of those ethical and social questions that always come up with new tech.
What's clear is that we're seeing a potential paradigm shift in how we think about and use energy. Hydrogen, made from renewables like solar, it's got huge potential, but also some big challenges.
It's a tricky balance, isn't it? Trying to harness the potential, but also mitigate those risks. What do you think are the most important things to focus on as we move forward with this tech?
For me, it all boils down to cost and making sure everyone can access it. We've got to find ways to make hydrogen production and storage affordable for everyone, not just the wealthy. Otherwise, we'll just end up with a new energy divide, and that defeats the whole purpose.
Couldn't agree more. We need to be really aware of those social and economic consequences as we move towards this hydrogen-powered future. And of course, safety has to be the #1 priority, always.
Absolutely. No compromise on safety. We need to keep investing in research, keep developing ways to address those inherent risks with hydrogen, like, it being flammable. And public perception matters, too. Got to be upfront about those safety measures, build that trust.
It's becoming more and more clear that we're still in the early stages of this whole hydrogen revolution. A lot of work ahead, but the potential benefits, huge. A future running on clean, renewable energy, that's a vision worth chasing, right? But what does this all mean for the average person? How can they get involved, start preparing for a potential hydrogen-powered world?
That's a great question. I think step one is just being aware. Stay informed about what's happening with hydrogen tech, read up on it. There's tons of stuff online, publications, organizations dedicated to clean energy solutions.
Right. Do your research, form your own opinion.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Talk to people, challenge assumptions. This is something that affects all of us, so we need everyone's voices, everyone's perspectives to build a truly sustainable and fair energy future.
It's about being an active part of this energy revolution, not just sitting back and watching it happen. We got to move past the hype, past the fear and have those real informed discussions.
Couldn't have said it better myself. We need to be critical thinkers, asking the tough questions, demanding transparency from those who are developing and promoting these technologies.
It's about holding them accountable, making sure that safety, fairness, and sustainability are front and center every step of the way. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of part one of our deep dive.
Join us next time as we delve even deeper into the world of hydrogen-powered homes, looking at the potential benefits, those remaining challenges, and what it all means for the future of energy.
Welcome back to our deep dive, everyone. Still exploring those hydrogen-powered homes.
We've covered a lot of ground already, haven't we? The science behind it, the potential upside, those challenges, even how people are reacting to the whole idea.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. But now I think it's time to, look ahead. Imagine a world where hydrogen's a major player in our energy system.
All right, let's fire up those imaginations. What comes to mind when you picture a hydrogen-powered world?
I'm ready.
Well, the first thing that strikes me is, wow, we could really slash those greenhouse gas emissions.
Yeah, that's a big one. We talked about hydrogen being a clean fuel source, but just to refresh, why is making it so much cleaner than, our current methods?
Because we're using renewable energy, like solar power, to create that hydrogen. We're not burning fossil fuels to make it. The whole process is clean from start to finish.
So it's not just about replacing dirty energy in our homes, it's about changing the way we get that energy in the first place.
Exactly. Think bigger. Not just homes, but transportation, industry, even those big energy grids. We could transform them all.
Wow, like swapping out the entire foundation of our energy system for something cleaner, greener. What other benefits do you see down the line?
One that's super interesting to me is energy independence. Think about those countries that rely heavily on importing fossil fuels. They can become much more self-sufficient.
That makes a ton of sense. No more dependence on global energy markets or those crazy price swings or all the messy geopolitics that come with it.
Exactly. Empowering countries, empowering communities, control their own energy, their own future. And speaking of empowerment, this shift to a hydrogen-based economy, well, it could create a whole bunch of new jobs.
Oh, yeah, jobs. That's key.
Yeah.
Whenever we talk about changing our energy systems, we got to think about the economic impact. What kind of jobs are we talking about here?
Well, think about it. Research and development, manufacturing, installation, maintenance, the whole spectrum, really. It could become a huge economic driver, create opportunities across the board.
It's not just about being good for the planet, it's about making sure everyone benefits, not just a select few. But, it's easy to get carried away with these rosy predictions. No technology's perfect, right? There are always going to be some downsides, some trade-offs, even things we can't predict.
You're absolutely right. That's why we need to keep talking about this, keep thinking critically. We can't just assume hydrogen will solve every problem without being realistic.
So yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's about embracing the potential, but also approaching this whole transition with a healthy dose of skepticism, right? Constantly evaluating those benefits and risks and being willing to adjust as we go.
Exactly. We need to embrace the fact that this is complicated, that there's no one-size-fits-all solution, and that everyone needs to have a say in how this unfolds.
Okay, so everyone needs a seat at the table, but who are we talking about specifically? Who needs to be part of this conversation?
We need scientists and engineers for sure, but also policymakers, economists, and most importantly, the people who will be most affected by this transition. It's about making sure this future we're building is sustainable, yes, but also fair and equitable for everyone.
That's such a crucial point. Sustainability without equity, well, it's not really sustainable at all. It's got to work for everyone. But I think a lot of people listening might be thinking, okay, this is all fascinating, but what can I do? What role does one person play in shaping this hydrogen-powered future?
It's easy to feel overwhelmed, right? Like our individual actions don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But that's just not true.
So we don't have to just sit around and wait for the government or big companies to figure it out. We actually have some power here.
Absolutely. Every choice we make, every product we buy, how much energy we use, it all makes a difference.
So it's about living our values, making those conscious choices that support a more sustainable future.
Exactly. And it's also about using our voices, talking to our friends and family, sharing information, advocating for policies that promote clean energy. Let your elected officials know this is important to you.
It's about being an active part of this energy revolution, not just a passive bystander. It sounds like knowledge is key when it comes to shaping the future of energy.
And that's exactly what this deep dive is all about. We want to equip everyone with the knowledge and understanding they need to participate in a meaningful way.
This is such an exciting time to be alive. We're on the verge of a major shift in how we produce and use energy, and we all have a role to play in shaping what that looks like.
It's a future full of possibilities, but it's up to us to navigate the challenges and make the right choices. And with that,
Don't go anywhere. In part 3, we'll bring it all together, explore what this hydrogen-powered future could mean for everyday people, and really dive into that human side of this technological revolution. And we're back. Final part of our deep dive into the world of hydrogen-powered homes.
it's been a whirlwind tour, right? From those tiny electrolysis reactions to imagining like entire societies running on hydrogen.
We've done it all, crunched the numbers, talked about the potential, even tackled those big ethical questions that come with any, groundbreaking tech.
And throughout this whole deep dive, one thing has become so clear. This isn't just about the science or the engineering, it's about people.
It's about how this tech could change our lives, our communities, our whole planet.
Exactly. And that's why these conversations are so important. We have to explore those different viewpoints, weigh the potential benefits against the risks, all of it.
Because in the end, it's people who'll decide if hydrogen is just a blip on the radar or the fuel of the future.
And those decisions, they're going to be influenced by so many things. Cost, safety, access, environmental impact, everything.
We've definitely covered all that. But as we wrap up this episode, I want to focus on something that I think often gets overlooked. The human element.
Love that. It's easy to get caught up in the technical stuff, the big picture. But yeah, we can't forget about the people at the heart of it all.
The people who are actually going to use this technology, the people whose lives will be changed by it, the people who will ultimately determine whether it succeeds or fails.
So true. So let's talk about that human element. What are some of those key things we need to consider when we're actually trying to bring this tech into our lives?
Well, for me, and I think we touched on this before, it's public perception. That's a big one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's so much misinformation out there about hydrogen, so much fear. And a lot of it comes from, those images we all have, the Hindenburg, those kind of historical accidents with flammable gases.
Yeah. And those fears, they're not totally baseless, right?
Yeah.
Hydrogen is flammable.
Yeah.
Safety has to be, non-negotiable.
100%.
Yeah.
But we also have to remember, with proper handling, storage, transportation, hydrogen can be used safely. It can be effective.
Okay, so how do we get there? How do we go from fear and uncertainty to actually feeling good about a hydrogen-powered future?
It's got to be two things, education and transparency.
Meaning?
We need to give people the facts, right? The good and the bad.
Yeah.
Lay it all out about the risks and the benefits of hydrogen. And we need to be totally upfront about the safety measures that are in place every step of the way.
So not just saying, trust us, it's fine. It's about showing people how it's done and why it's safe.
Right. Build that trust. It's really that simple. People need to feel like this technology is being developed responsibly, that their safety matters.
Because if they don't trust it, well, good luck getting anyone to adopt any new tech, no matter how amazing it is.
Exactly. People need to feel comfortable using this stuff in their homes, in their lives. And that leads to another big piece of this human element puzzle, accessibility.
We talked a lot about costs, but I think accessibility it's more than just being able to afford it.
For sure. It's about making sure everyone can benefit, rich or poor, no matter where they live, what their background is.
We can't create a system where clean energy is only for the privileged few. That would just make things worse.
Absolutely. This transition, it needs to be fair. The benefits have to be shared.
Which brings me to my last point, and I think we've been hinting at this throughout the episode, but this transition can't happen in a vacuum. We all have to work together.
Totally agree. We can't just force this technology on people, even if our intentions are good. We need to listen to communities, understand their concerns, and work with them to find solutions that actually meet their needs.
So instead of this top-down approach, it's got to be more inclusive, more from the ground up.
It's about forming partnerships. Scientists, engineers, policymakers, community leaders, everyday people, everyone needs to be involved.
It's about creating a shared vision for a better future. A vision that takes everyone's needs and hopes into account.
Now that's a vision I can get behind.
Me too. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about hydrogen, it's about building a better world.
It's about using innovation to solve those big pressing problems, climate change, energy insecurity, but doing it the right way, responsibly, fairly, sustainably.
That's a big challenge, but I think it's one we can meet, and I'd even say it's one we have to meet.
And that brings us to the most important point. The future isn't set in stone. It's not just going to happen to us. We get to decide.
So, as you go about your day, think about those choices you make, the energy you use, the stuff you buy. Remember, you have a role to play in this energy revolution.
Stay informed, stay involved, stay curious. Because the future of energy, it's not just about hydrogen, it's about all of us.
And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of hydrogen-powered homes. We hope you've learned something, that it's given you some things to think about, and maybe even sparked a little inspiration.
We hope you'll keep learning about this fascinating topic. Keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay curious, keep asking those questions, and keep imagining a brighter, more sustainable future for everyone.